Now you see, this is a low-end Rolex. Basic, classic. Runs you about $5,000. Now there are models that go up from there. But for a really good Rolex, you're looking to spend upward to $15,000 to $100,000. I was getting lesson on fancy watches in my apartment from a guy that lives on my couch. A garbage truck rolled by. His name is Paul. My boyfriend at the time, Tom, met Paul at the methadone clinic. My boyfriend Tom attracted all sorts of nefarious characters, adding them to his collection like he was writing a Raymond Carver story. Tom and I had been together for a few years. He had black, slicked hair, lots of black band t-shirts, and black Converse. It's a look he had had since he was 15. And I was still going through my boys with tattoos and hardcore drug addiction phase that I would eventually grow out of. Whoa, hello. Paul drove an old convertible BMW. He was tall and handsome, tan yet a little gaunt. He was always clean-shaven and had his short hair slicked back. His style was similar to a preppy bad guy in 80s movies. Paul was about 45, but could pass for 35. Heroin will do that to you. Kind of like formaldehyde. He wore chinos and a polo shirt, always had a Canon or a Nikon around his neck and a Rolex on his wrist. I once asked him if he loved to take pictures. Are you kidding me? This thing doesn't even have film in it. It's expensive, makes me look rich. It was all about the grift. Paul grew up in La Jolla, a rich kid in the 80s. His mom and dad owned a jewelry store. His knowledge of diamonds and gemstones was impressive. Paul started doing drugs in high school, crack, PCP, and heroin. As an adult, he had served 5 years of a 10-year sentence for stealing TVs and electronics from Best Buy. When the judge sentenced him, Paul's knees buckled and he cried. He once told me about how he tried to buy rock in Sherman Heights in 1989. He was a white boy in his mom's white Porsche. The drug dealer tried to steal the car, and when Paul wouldn't get out, the dude shot him. Paul drove to the hospital, bleeding all over the fine Italian leather, and crashed into the emergency room entrance. He was 17 at the time. I think it goes without saying that I kind of worshipped him. And I think my Tom admired him for being a slick con man. That's why when Paul's girlfriend kicked him out, we offered him our couch. No questions. I remember going into his backpack to look for a cigarette and finding a gun. I had never held a gun before. And like an idiot, I thought it was cool. What a complete criminal. And gentleman. He would bring me designer sunglasses and clothes. He knew what size jeans I wore. He once brought me a gold Michael Kors leather jacket. Totally bitchin'. He even did the dishes, bought groceries, vacuumed, and scrubbed the toilet. I think he cultivated that habit from keeping a prison cell clean. And it was this way for months. We did drugs and wore fancy clothes. I had a normal office job working as a receptionist, all pencil skirts and cardigans. The job paid the rent. Paul and Tom would run errands all day that kept us in the fun stuff. We were an oddly functioning family with a crack-smoking, gun-toting, Rolex-wearing patriarch running the show. It was around Christmas time that this slowly came to an end. I woke up one morning and my boyfriend was gone. Maybe he had gone to the methadone clinic early with Paul, Or maybe he had walked out to the donut shop to pick me up a pink French cruller. I peeked my head out of the bedroom. Paul was still asleep on the couch. I immediately knew something was wrong. I shook Paul awake. Did you see Tom leave? No. We waited a few hours and finally got a call from the San Diego County Jail. Tom had tried to steal DVDs from Vaughn's at a 5 a.m. Klonopin-induced klepto frenzy. Obviously, in order to steal DVDs from Vaughn's properly, you need another person. One person would grab a basket, load it up with DVDs, then throw a roll of tinfoil in, plus a large bag of potato chips to hide the DVDs. Then you would take the basket to the bathroom and throw everything in the trash can and leave the store. The second person would walk in with a backpack, go directly to the bathroom, wrap the DVDs in tinfoil, I know, it's criminal, to hide the censors and walk out of the store. Therefore, the first person seen on video is, I'm sorry. The person in video isn't really stealing them. They're leaving the store empty-handed. The second person is the one with the goods. They are the only ones seen on camera going to the bathroom and leaving. This was Tom's small-time grift, one that required 2 people. For him to attempt it on his own was suicide. But that morning, he felt ballsy. He says he doesn't remember driving or loading up his backpack and running out. The security guard had to tackle him to the ground 2 blocks away. His face was scraped up. He broke his glasses. All over 3 copies of Die Hard 2 and 3 Weddings of a Funeral. Nothing is sadder than walking through Horton Plaza after work, Charlie Brown Christmas song playing, and having to visit your boyfriend in jail. Tom looked like shit. His hands were shaking. He was detoxing pretty bad. And for some reason, his bail was really high. Maybe due to the fact that he was a repeat offender. Maybe the drugged up wrestling match with the rent-a-cop. Maybe it was the holidays. But I was told he wouldn't be let out until after Christmas or would be released if I could make the $10,000 bail. This was a figure I couldn't even comprehend. $10,000? Luckily for me, the fine gentleman at All Pro Bail Bondsman could explain it to me. By the way, the people that work at bail bonds office are the nicest, most understanding people in the universe. He gave me a bottle of water, a cup of coffee, and 2 All Pro Bail Bondsman's t-shirts. Did you know you're only required to pay 10% of the bail total? The other 90% is waived upon his return to the court date. So $1,000? Could have been $1 million. Little 24-year-old me did not have that kind of scratch. This is why God invented bail bondsmen. I would just need to come up with $500. The rest I would finance and pay back monthly at a double-digit interest rate. Math and science and stuff. So $500 could have been $1 million. Again, little 24-year-old me did not have that kind of scratch. And this is where my elegant thief, Paul, came up with the solution. A couple months before the Klonopin DVD debacle, Paul had stolen a Segway. He just 2-wheeled that thing right off the lot. Rode that nerdy contraption down the street a few miles and into his friend's garage, and that's where it stayed. Paul offered me an opportunity to sell the Segway. Paul was very bad at computers, as anyone is with hefty jail time in their history. All he needed was a well-written Craigslist ad and a pretty face to sell the thing. I would earn $500 from the transaction and could spring my greasy bad boy lover from the hoosegow. I posted, Segway for sale, the people mover. Slightly used Segway for sale, runs great, just never got around to riding it. This is the transportation of the future. $2,500 or best offer. I got a call within an hour. This guy showed up later that evening. He was chubby, glasses. He had probably clocked in a few hours with a 20-sided die. We had met in the alley behind our apartment. It looked sketchy as fuck. I asked him why he wanted one, trying to calm him down and assure him this trade was on the level. His friends had started a Segway club to ride around San Diego. Basically the world's dorkiest biker gang. Paul showed him how it worked, both of them taking turns whizzing up and down the alley. I kept my cool. This was the first person that had called, the first person to show up. How much is it again? $2,500, I said sweetly, employing all the charm. He didn't hesitate or haggle. Well, here you go. He handed me an envelope heavy with 20s. Tom would be home for Christmas. When Paul and I got up to the apartment, he handed me $200. My elegant con man was trying to pass one over for me. I sounded like a spoiled kid. Oh, you said 500. I need 500. Oh yeah, I forgot. Fucking junkies, man. We took the bus from North Park to downtown. It was dark. After paying the bondsman, we still had to wait a few hours before Tom's release. It was about midnight. Paul and I passed the time drinking beers at one of those touristy nightclubs on Fifth Avenue, saluting what a great pair of criminals we made. It was true. It was all about appearances. He told me I was dangerous, sweet, charming, and beautiful. He bought me drinks and told me I could run the world. I imagined diamond heists and bank vaults and fake passports and jet planes, pink mansions and clawfoot tubs. I could leave Tom and this failed DVD heist behind me. But after the new year and Tom's return, we had to kick Paul out. His crack habit had gotten out of control, and he would sit in front of the windows, peeking out of the blinds with his gun on his lap. He wouldn't let us leave the house until he decided that they weren't watching. The house was disgusting and the expensive gifts stopped coming. But also, I couldn't keep up. My body started shutting down. I grew resentful of all the lying and struggle. I started to see how years would pass us and we would just be one of those stupid fucking junkies. Drugs are for the young. And I moved on. I found myself making better choices and surrounding myself with better people. A few months later, I heard Paul was picked up by the cops. They arrested him for breaking into a house and multiple thefts. And one piece of evidence was some random surveillance video of a man effortlessly riding a Segway off a dealership lot, Rolex glinting in the sun.